A sleek black Aston Martin DB11 pulls up right in front of my sister's wedding venue in Dallas, Texas. And I, Abigail, step out to the stunned stares of Chelsea's friends, like a fierce Texas prairie storm tearing through, shattering every label my family pinned on me. I'm Abigail, a 28-year-old artist, once branded a failure by my family for choosing art over accounting like my sister Chelsea, their golden child for her glamorous ways. But now, on June 7th, 2025, I stand before the guests in a fiery red gown, behind the wheel of a $200,000 car, stealing the spotlight at the lavish wedding my family never thought I'd be worthy of attending. Chelsea, my sister, invited me to her wedding with grudging obligation, like I was just an insignificant guest. But her eyes, and her friends, shift when I arrive as if they can't believe the one who once scraped by on instant noodles in Dallas's suburbs, am now strutting in like a polished entrepreneur. I feel every glance, every whisper. Is that Abigail? Chelsea's sister? No way. Like knives dredging up years of family scorn, but also like a sweet victory I've quietly planned. I recall the days my parents compared me to Chelsea, calling me an unrealistic dreamer as I painted in my room, while they praised Chelsea for studying economics, landing a high-paying job, and flaunting designer outfits. I was sidelined, belittled at every family gathering, but I never gave up. I silently turned the tables, from a girl with nothing to the woman standing at this wedding, driving an Aston Martin I earned with my own sweat and tears. I walk into the reception, my heels clicking with confident strides, but inside, I'm a storm of emotions. I'm here not just for the wedding, but to prove I'm no longer the Abigail they dismissed, but an Abigail who flipped her life around, ready to face her past. I can't forget Chelsea's look when she saw me step out of the Aston Martin, and I know this reception will be where I tell my story, of how I turned nothing into everything to become the center of attention today. I turned the tables to become the center of attention at my sister Chelsea's wedding in Austin, Texas, stepping out of an Aston Martin to the stunned gazes of her friends on that day, June 7th, 2025, when I confronted a past where my family dismissed me, like a fierce storm tearing through the Texas plains, carrying both pain and the triumph I'd quietly prepared. But how did I, a girl who once survived on instant noodles, stand amid this lavish party with a $200,000 car and a gown that turned heads? My journey began in the toughest days, when my family sidelined me for choosing art, called me an unrealistic dreamer just for wanting to be an artist. I left Austin in 2017, at 20, with $300 in my pocket and a burning dream, moving to New York to study art school, working part-time at a bakery in Brooklyn, earning $45 an hour to cover rent and groceries. I lived on instant noodles to save, spending on paint and design software, never giving up even on days I wondered if my family was right about me failing. I worked tirelessly, creating vibrant pieces, and in 2020 I hit my first milestone when a personal project, Threshold, an interactive art installation blending light and space, was showcased at a small Manhattan gallery. The project went viral, catching the eye of Luminina Studios, a major art firm in Austin, who offered me a $5 million contract in 2021 to bring Threshold to a public space in Austin. The payout cleared my student loans, bought me the Aston Martin, and built a career my family thought I'd never have. But I didn't brag. I stayed quiet, letting my success speak for itself. And I chose to show up at Chelsea's wedding, not to flaunt, but to prove I'd flipped the script, from nothing to a recognized artist, without their support. Standing at the reception, seeing Chelsea in my family's eyes, I felt a sweet victory, but also a lingering ache, knowing this success didn't erase years of being belittled, of unfair treatment between me and Chelsea. How could I have known this journey would take me back to an unequal childhood in suburban Austin, where it all began, forcing me to confront the biases my family pinned on me? My journey takes me back to an unequal childhood in suburban Dallas, where it all began, facing the labels my family pinned on me. After turning the tables to steal the show at Chelsea's wedding in Dallas, Texas, after stepping out of an Aston Martin to stunned stares, like a fierce Texas prairie storm carrying both painful memories and a resolve to change my fate. I grew up in a middle-class family in Richardson, a Dallas suburb, in a small house with a weedy backyard, where Chelsea, my sister, and I, with our clashing personalities, stood apart from the start. I, a creative kid, loved painting and dreaming of vibrant spaces, spending hours in my room's corner with colored pencils, imagining myself an artist. Chelsea, 2 years younger, was ambitious, always pleasing our parents with her practical plans. She dreamed of being an accountant, wore designer clothes, and bragged about her high grades. My family, parents, grandparents, aunts, and uncles, doted on Chelsea, calling her their pride, while I was seen as a burden for my art passion. I recall evenings around the dinner table, my parents praising Chelsea for joining the school debate club. "This girl's going places. She'll make big money someday," Mom said, her eyes beaming. But when I showed off a school art contest-winning painting, Dad barely glanced at it, saying coldly, "Can you eat with paintings? Learn accounting like Chelsea." I bowed my head, tears falling silently, feeling like the world turned its back on me, like a cold wind cutting through a Texas prairie, making me question my worth. Chelsea and I grew up in stark inequity. Mom bought her new outfits, enrolled her in ballet, while I wore hand-me-downs from cousins and never got support for the art classes I craved. Chelsea was always favored, from lavish birthday parties to praise in front of relatives, while I was pushed aside, called an unrealistic dreamer, as if my passion was a sin. Those years, like an unhealed scar, left me feeling I didn't belong. But they also sparked a fire of resolve. I knew I had to leave Dallas to chase my dreams, even if it meant facing criticism and unfairness from those I loved most. How could I have guessed that journey would lead to deeper prejudices as my parents' views shifted toward Chelsea's glamour, thrusting me into a battle to prove my worth? My parents' view gradually shifted toward Chelsea's glamour, thrusting me into a battle to prove my worth after an unequal childhood in suburban Dallas, Texas, where I grew up sidelined by my family for my passion for art, like a cold wind cutting through the Texas plains, fueling my resolve to leave and chase my dream despite their scorn. In Richardson, a Dallas suburb, my parents began to see Chelsea as the symbol of success, while I was deemed a burden just for loving painting. I remember my high school years, when Chelsea started shining with glamorous achievements. She aced her classes, joined prestigious clubs, and always showed up in designer clothes my parents eagerly paid for, like they were investing in a brand. "Chelsea's gonna make bank. She's got a bright future," my dad would say, his eyes beaming with pride, while my mom added, "She knows how to make the family proud, unlike someone who just doodles." I sat there at family dinners, feeling stabbed in the heart, like my world was crumbling, as my parents compared me to Chelsea, calling me an unrealistic dreamer, just for wanting to be an artist. They judged our futures based on status. Chelsea, with her plans to study economics and become an accountant, was seen as the one who'd bring wealth and prestige, while I, with my passion for design and painting, was labeled a failure, not worth investing in. I recall when I was 17, my parents threw Chelsea a lavish 15th birthday party with a huge cake, balloons, and a crowd of guests, while my birthday was a simple meal with half-hearted wishes. "You're grown now, no need for parties. Focus on school," my mom said, her eyes cold. The unfairness went beyond material things. They paid for Chelsea's expensive courses, took her to career workshops, while I had to save $50 from part-time jobs to buy paint, only to be scolded for wasting money. Their perspective shifted, no longer rooted in love, but in the glamour Chelsea brought. She was the pride they flaunted to neighbors, while I was the disappointment they wanted to hide. Those years, like a scar that never heals, made me feel unworthy, but also ignited a fierce determination. I knew I had to prove my value, even if it meant facing my family's contempt. How could I have known this unfairness would escalate, as Chelsea began showing superiority, treating me with disdain at every family gathering? Chelsea starts flaunting her superiority complex, treating me with contempt at every family gathering, forcing me to fight to prove my worth. After my parents' views shift toward her glamour, after an unequal childhood in suburban Dallas, Texas, like a cold wind slicing through a Texas prairie, carrying injustice and pain I can't forget. As Chelsea and I grew into adulthood, the unfairness in how our family treated us didn't fade. It escalated, with Chelsea growing more arrogant, acting like she was above me just because our parents saw her as their pride. I recall family gatherings in Richardson, Dallas in the years before I left in 2017, when Chelsea started college for economics and landed an internship at a big downtown Dallas firm. She'd show up in designer outfits, toting Gucci bags and heels, bragging about her $15 an hour internship pay, while I struggled with my art passion, working at a grocery store for $8 an hour to save for art school in New York. Chelsea wasn't just praised by our parents. She actively belittled me in front of everyone, like I was a failure not worth comparing to. "You're still painting? Don't you see how much I'm making from my internship?" she said at a Christmas party in 2016, her tone dripping with scorn, making the whole family laugh while I sat there, face burning, feeling like a knife pierced my heart. I tried to push back. "I'm doing what I love. Not everyone wants your life." But Chelsea just smirked. "Love what? With no money? You should study accounting. Don't embarrass the family." Her words, sharp as a blade, made me feel like I didn't belong, like my world was crumbling, but my parents just nodded along with Chelsea. "Listen to your sister, she's right." Chelsea's superiority didn't stop at words. She constantly compared me to her friends with stable jobs and nice houses, while I was still dreaming with my canvases. Every family gathering, I felt pushed to the sidelines, treated like an outsider, just because I didn't live up to the glamorous standard they valued. I never expected her contempt would escalate, as Chelsea started bad-mouthing me behind my back, wounding me deeper than I imagined. I couldn't have guessed Chelsea would go further when I overheard her spilling tea about me borrowing $2,000 for rent, revealing her betrayal cut even crueler than I thought. Chelsea takes it further when I overhear her spilling tea about my $2,000 loan to pay rent, making me realize her betrayal cuts deeper than I thought. After she treated me with disdain at every family gathering, after my parents shifted their favor toward her glamour in Dallas, Texas, like a cold wind slicing through the Texas plains, bringing a sting of betrayal I never saw coming. On a July evening in 2017, just weeks before I left Dallas for New York, I returned to our Richardson suburb for a family party, hoping my parents might support my art school decision, but I never expected to catch my own sister bad-mouthing me. After dinner, while catching my breath in the backyard, I overheard Chelsea on the phone with her friends, her voice dripping with arrogance and mockery. My sister Abigail just borrowed $2,000 to cover rent. Can you believe it? Total loser, chasing her artsy dreams with no cash, now begging for loans to survive. I freeze, heart pounding, feeling like a knife's been plunged into my chest, unable to believe Chelsea. My little sister, who used to play with me in our Dallas backyard, could be so cruel, trashing me to her friends, turning my struggles into a joke. I'd borrowed $2,000 from a friend to pay rent in Dallas, since my 8-hour grocery store job wasn't enough. But it was a loan I took pride in because I was working toward my dream, not leeching off family. But Chelsea didn't care. She just wanted to drag me down, as if my loan proved the failure label my family slapped on me. I stand there, in the dark backyard, silent tears falling, feeling like my world's collapsing, betrayed by the person I thought would always have my back, no matter how much my parents looked down on me. I don't confront Chelsea then. I'm too hurt, too raw to say anything. But I know I can't keep living under her and my family's contempt. Her gossip, like a scar that never heals, fuels my resolve to leave Dallas, to escape my family and prove I'm not the loser they think, but an artist with worth, deserving of love and respect. I had no idea Chelsea's betrayal would go even further, leaking my financial details to friends and acquaintances, wounding me deeper than I ever imagined. How could I have known Chelsea would hurt me more, with subtle, humiliating jabs buried in my subconscious, sharper than the gossip I overheard? Chelsea wounds me deeper with subtle, subconscious humiliations that cut sharper than the gossip I overheard, after catching her spilling tea about my $2,000 rent loan, after her contemptuous treatment at every family gathering in Dallas, Texas, like a cold wind slicing through a Texas prairie, making me realize her betrayal has burrowed into my psyche more than I thought. In the weeks after that July 2017 party in Richardson, Dallas, I can't shake Chelsea's backstabbing. She didn't just mock my $2,000 loan to her friends, but spread my financial struggles to acquaintances and relatives, like she wanted to make me a laughingstock. I find out when a high school friend texts me, her tone pitying. Heard you're struggling, had to borrow $2,000 for rent. Need any help? I'm stunned, heart racing, unable to believe Chelsea broadcast my private business to people I haven't spoken to in years, like she aimed to drown me in shame. I call her, voice trembling. How could you do this to me? You told our relatives about my loan? But she just scoffs. You're blowing it out of proportion. I only told a few people, what's the big deal? Her reply, sharp as a blade, feels like another betrayal, like my world's collapsing, as I realize Chelsea has no remorse. She deliberately hurt me, wanting me to feel small, worthless, just because I don't live up to the glamorous standard our family worships. These subtle humiliations don't stop at words. They seep into my subconscious, making me question if I'm truly worthy, if my art passion is the mistake they claimed. I recall nights after, lying in bed in my tiny Dallas apartment, tears falling silently, feeling cast aside by my family not just emotionally, but in dignity, like I'm the failure they're entitled to drag. Chelsea's betrayal, like an unhealed scar, fuels my resolve to leave Dallas for New York, not just to chase my dreams, but to prove I'm not the loser she and our family think. I never expect that journey would lead to a major turning point, when my art project Threshold unexpectedly takes off, opening a new chapter in my life. I couldn't have guessed that Threshold, a vibrant art piece, would become the gateway to turning my life around, lifting me from past humiliations to a spotlight my family never believed I'd reach. My arrival at Chelsea's wedding transforms every gaze, from shock to respect, as a flurry of networking requests and business card exchanges erupts. After I step in with the car, the dress, and the ring, proving I've flipped my life script, like a fierce storm tearing through the Texas plains, carrying pride and triumph my family never thought I could achieve. On the evening of June 7th, 2025, in the dazzling outdoor wedding venue in downtown Dallas, Texas, I stand amid the crowd in a fiery red gown, twinkling lights catching my 2-carat diamond ring, with my $200,000 Aston Martin DB11 parked outside, a bold statement that I'm no longer the belittled girl from Dallas. The eyes of everyone, Chelsea's friends, relatives, my parents, shift entirely, no longer filled with the contempt or pity I faced at family gatherings, but with respect and awe, as if seeing me for the first time. A friend of Chelsea's in a navy evening dress approaches with an awkward smile. You're Abigail, Chelsea's sister, right? I heard you're into art. Your Threshold piece is huge. Can I get your card? I smile, handing over a business card with my art company's logo, but inside, an emotional storm brews. These people who once mocked me now want to connect, as if my success erased a decade of their scorn. A stream of guests follows, from a Dallas entrepreneur pitching a gallery collab to a Houston interior designer seeking advice. And I feel the shift. They no longer see me as the loser Chelsea trashed for borrowing $2,000 to pay rent. But as a successful artist, a polished entrepreneur they're eager to know. My parents, watching from a distance, look at me with uneasy eyes, like they regret sidelining me, calling me an unrealistic dreamer while praising Chelsea. Chelsea, in her pristine white wedding dress, keeps a forced smile, but I sense her irritation. She never expected me. The sister she badmouthed to friends to steal the spotlight at her own wedding. I stand there, fielding networking offers, feeling like blazing sunlight after a storm, knowing I've proven my worth, but also that this moment isn't complete. I need to speak my truth. To make my family see that success isn't the glamour they idolized. How could I have guessed my speech would ignite a fire, reconnecting me with my family and transforming our relationship entirely? My speech ignites, reconnecting with my family and transforming our relationship entirely. After every gaze at Chelsea's wedding shifts from disbelief to respect. After I arrive as a polished entrepreneur with the car, the dress, and the ring, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me a chance to speak my truth and heal the wounds my family inflicted. On the evening of June 7th, 2025, in the lavish outdoor wedding venue in downtown Dallas, Texas, I stand amid twinkling lights and cascading white flowers, feeling hundreds of eyes on me. Chelsea's friends, relatives, my parents, and Chelsea in her pristine white gown, all waiting for my toast. But I know this isn't just a blessing. It's my moment to tell the truth. To make my family see that success isn't the glamour they idolized, and to mend the scars from a decade of their disdain. I grip the mic, my voice steady but brimming with emotion. First, I want to wish Chelsea and her new husband a lifetime of happiness. You're a strong woman, and I'm proud you forged your own path. The guests applaud, but I'm not done. I look straight at my parents and Chelsea, my eyes misty but resolute. But I also need to share something I've held in for 10 years. I was called a failure by my family for choosing art, compared to Chelsea for not being glamorous like her, gossiped about behind my back when I borrowed $2,200 for rent, and made to feel unworthy for not meeting the family's standards. The crowd falls silent. My parents lower their heads. Chelsea shifts uncomfortably, but I press on. Real success isn't about how much money you make or the glamour we show off to others. It's about living true to your passion, standing up after being pushed aside. I did that. I left Dallas with $300 in my pocket, worked day and night in New York, and now I'm here, not to flaunt this Aston Martin or this dress, but to say I'm proud I never gave up on myself. The guests erupt in applause, but I'm not finished. I hope my family can learn to love each other for who we are, not our achievements or status, and I'm ready to start fresh, if you are too. I step down, tears falling quietly, feeling like a massive burden has lifted, like the first sunlight after a storm, knowing I've spoken my truth and opened a door to healing. My parents approach, their eyes full of regret. You're right. We were wrong. Mom whispers, her voice trembling. Chelsea still a bit, still, nods, as if rethinking how she's treated me. That speech doesn't just reconnect. It reshapes our bond forever, paving the way for a new chapter. How could I not have guessed this moment would lead to a raw confrontation with Chelsea at the reception, where real admissions finally get spoken? A direct confrontation with Chelsea at the wedding reception opens the door to genuine admissions. After my explosive speech reconnects our family, after everyone's gazes shift from shock to respect, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me a chance to face my sister and heal the wounds she caused. On the evening of June 7th, 2025, after my speech earns roaring applause at the lavish outdoor wedding in downtown Dallas, Texas, I step off the stage, heart still racing with emotion, but I know I'm not done. I need to talk face to face with Chelsea, my sister, who badmouthed me, treated me with disdain, and leaked my financial struggles to humiliate me. I find Chelsea in a quiet corner of the reception, standing alone, her pristine white wedding dress shimmering under the lights. But her eyes no longer hold the irritation they did when I arrived in my Aston Martin. They're now pensive, as if my speech touched something in her. I approach, my voice soft but firm. Chelsea, I need to talk. Just us. She nods and we step to a secluded spot near the flower garden. I know you weren't thrilled seeing me show up like this. I start, looking her in the eye. But have you ever thought about the hurt you caused me? Badmouthing me, spilling tea about my $2,000 loan, treating me like a loser? Chelsea lowers her head, her voice trembling. I was wrong, sis. I was jealous of you. I always thought you'd flop with art, but seeing you step out of that car, I realized I was mistaken. I was jealous because you dared to live your passion, while I just did what Mom and Dad wanted. Her admission, like a cool breeze after a storm, stuns me. I never expected her to own up to her jealousy, something I sensed but never heard her say. I place a hand on her shoulder, silent tears falling. I'm not mad at you. I just want you to see we don't have to compete. I've always been proud of you, and I hope you can be proud of me too. Chelsea looks up, her eyes full of remorse. I am proud. I'm sorry for hurting you. We hug for the first time in 10 years, feeling a massive weight lift, like the first sunlight after a storm, knowing we've opened a door to healing. How could I have known this moment would lead to recognition from our whole family, as my parents begin to understand and apologize too? My parents begin to understand and apologize, granting me the family recognition I never thought I'd receive. After confronting Chelsea at the reception and hearing her admit her jealousy, after my explosive speech at the wedding reconnects us, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, bringing healing I once thought impossible. After the emotional moment with Chelsea at the wedding reception in downtown Dallas, Texas, on the evening of June 7th, 2025, I returned to the main event area, where twinkling lights still illuminate the outdoor space brimming with white flowers. I've barely sat at my table, still reeling from my talk with Chelsea, when my parents approach, their faces etched with remorse, their eyes no longer cold like the years in Dallas when they called me a failure for pursuing art. My mom takes my hand, her voice trembling. You were right in your speech. I was wrong to compare you to Chelsea, to not see your worth. I'm sorry for hurting you all those years. My dad, always stern and once insistent I study accounting, lowers his head. I was wrong not to support you. I never imagined your art could lead to this success, and I'm proud you lived true to your passion. Their apologies, like a cool breeze after a storm, stun me. I never expected them to own their mistakes, to acknowledge my value after a decade of disdain, after praising Chelsea for her glamour while pushing me aside. I hug them, silent tears falling, feeling a massive weight lift, like the first sunlight after a storm, knowing I've mended part of our family, not through the glamour they once idolized, but through my authenticity and hard-earned success. My parents look at me with new eyes. No more comparisons, no more prejudice, but respect. As if seeing me for the first time. Not as the unrealistic dreamer daughter, but as a successful artist who rolled up in an Aston Martin and stood tall at the wedding with confidence they never anticipated. That moment isn't just an apology. It's the recognition I once craved. But now know I don't need to feel worthy. Only to heal. I never expected this recognition would spark a fresh start, as Chelsea's dramatic admission of jealousy leads us to discuss rebuilding our bond. I couldn't have known this moment would pave the way for reconnection, as Chelsea and I start forging a new relationship, moving past years of jealousy and hurt. Chelsea's dramatic admission of jealousy leads us to discuss healing, sparking a fresh start for reconnection, after my parents acknowledge my worth and apologize at the wedding. After confronting Chelsea and hearing her sincere confession, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me hope that our family can mend a decade of unfairness. After Chelsea's wedding on June 7th, 2025 in downtown Dallas, Texas, I returned to New York. But my parents' apologies and my talk with Chelsea linger in my mind, like a door cracked open, offering a chance to repair a relationship I thought was broken forever. A few days later, on June 10th, 2025, Chelsea texts me, her tone entirely different. No longer arrogant or dismissive, but genuine. Sis, I want to talk more. I know I was wrong for being jealous, and I want to start over. I'm stunned, my heart racing, not expecting Chelsea to reach out after everything. After a decade of treating me like a failure, bad-mouthing my $2,000 loan, and leaking my financial struggles. I agree, and we hop on a video call that evening. Me in my Brooklyn studio, Chelsea in Dallas, her eyes brimming with regret. I've been jealous of you since we were kids. Chelsea confesses, her voice shaky. Mom and Dad always compared us, and I thought if I was more glamorous, I'd be loved more. But seeing you succeed with Threshold, rolling up to my wedding in that Aston Martin, I realized I was wrong. I was jealous because you dared to live your passion, while I just followed their script. Chelsea's raw admission, like a cool breeze after a storm, moves me. I never expected her to be so honest, owning the jealousy that drove her to mistreat me for years. I smile, silent tears falling. I'm not mad at you. I just want us to understand each other, and I'm ready to start fresh if you are too. Chelsea nods. I really want that. Sis, can I visit you in New York? I want to see your Threshold project. I agree, feeling a massive weight lift, like the first sunlight after a storm, knowing we've begun a new journey, free of rivalry or jealousy, rooted in understanding and love. I never expected this moment would pave the way for a renewed family bond when our whole family visits my Threshold exhibition in New York. Our whole family visits my Threshold exhibition in New York, cementing a new family bond. After Chelsea admits her jealousy and we begin to heal. After my parents acknowledge my worth at the Dallas wedding, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me faith that our family can overcome past hurts to rebuild love. After our emotional video call on June 10th, 2025, I invite my family to New York to see Threshold at its public space in Brooklyn, where I executed the $1 million project with Luminina Studios in 2021. I never expected them to agree, but on a July 2025 afternoon, my parents, Chelsea, and her husband fly in from Dallas, standing before the vibrant artwork I poured sweat and tears into. As they step into the exhibition, Threshold's lights dance across their faces, reflecting the emotions I embedded in every stroke. My parents stand silent, their eyes brimming with pride, seeing me not as the unrealistic dreamer they once dismissed, but as an artist who created something extraordinary. Chelsea, beside me, grips my hand tightly. "Sis, I had no idea you could do this. I'm so proud of you." Her voice thick with emotion, and I feel her sincerity, as if a decade of jealousy and pain between us has melted away. I guide them through Threshold, explaining how light and sound weave together to tell my story of overcoming hardship. From scraping by on instant noodles in Dallas, to leaving with $300 in my pocket, to thriving in New York. My parents listen, nodding, and my mom whispers, "I never knew art could be this powerful. I'm proud of you." Her words, like a cool breeze after a storm, move me. A massive weight lifting, like the first sunlight after a tempest, knowing my family now truly sees my value, not for glamour, but for daring to live my passion. That moment seals a new family bond. No more comparisons, no more jealousy, just understanding and love, opening a fresh chapter for us. I never expected Chelsea would keep evolving, as she embraces and acknowledges my worldview, leading to a deeper understanding between us sisters. Chelsea experiences and acknowledges my way of seeing the world, forging a deeper understanding between us sisters. After our family visits my Threshold exhibition in New York, after we forge a new family bond, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me faith that our family can truly change after a decade of unfairness. On a July 2025 afternoon at the public space in Brooklyn, New York, Chelsea steps into my Threshold exhibition, where light and sound intertwine to tell my story of overcoming hardship. From scraping by on instant noodles in Dallas, Texas, to thriving with Luminina Studios. I watch from a distance, her expression shifting as she moves through the piece, lights dancing in her eyes as if she's feeling the emotions I poured into every stroke. Afterward, Chelsea approaches me, her voice thick with emotion. "Sis, I had no idea art could hit like this. I get it now. You see the world differently, and that's your strength." Her acknowledgement, like a cool breeze after a storm, stuns me. I never expected Chelsea, who once called me a failure and trashed me for borrowing $2,000 to pay rent, to embrace the value of my art, admitting my perspective is a power she lacks. She continues, "I always thought success was about making bank, the glamour mom and dad hyped up. But today, I see you've done something bigger. You created a world people can step into, feel, and heal." I hug Chelsea, silent tears falling, a final weight lifting like the first sunlight after a storm, knowing we've truly connected. No longer rivals or comparers, but sisters with respect and love. Our parents nearby nod, their eyes brimming with pride, as if witnessing a shift not just in Chelsea, but in themselves. Realizing my art isn't just unrealistic dreaming, but a force that can reshape how the world is seen. That moment, amid Threshold's glow, proves our family has changed, and I feel whole, knowing I didn't just flip my life script at Chelsea's wedding, but opened a new chapter for us all. I never expected this understanding would lead to a core conversation, where I share my greatest lesson about true success. A pivotal conversation with Chelsea redefines my greatest lesson about true success, after she experiences Threshold and embraces my worldview. After our family forges a new bond at the New York exhibition, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me a chance to share the life philosophy I learned through a decade of being belittled. After touring Threshold, on a July 2025 afternoon in Brooklyn, New York, Chelsea and I sit in a cozy nearby coffee shop, sunlight streaming through the window, creating a warm space for a deeper talk. Chelsea looks at me, her eyes free of the jealousy or irritation from the Dallas wedding, now full of curiosity. "Sis, how did you overcome it all? My gossip, mom and dad's dismissal, the struggles in Dallas, to succeed like this?" I smile, my voice gentle but firm. "I learned that success isn't about silencing critics or chasing the glamour our family prized. It's about living true to yourself, daring to follow your passion even when the world turns its back." Chelsea falls quiet, her gaze reflective, as if rethinking the years she chased our parents' glamorous standards, comparing herself to me to feel superior, only to realize it didn't bring real happiness. I continue. It hurt when you trashed me for borrowing $2,000 to pay rent, when Mom and Dad called me a failure for choosing art. But I didn't let their words define me. I left Dallas with $300 in my pocket, worked day and night in New York, and now I'm here. Not to prove them wrong, but to prove I could live my passion. Chelsea nods, silent tears falling. Sis, I was wrong to think success meant matching Mom and Dad's expectations. Seeing you happy with Threshold, with your way of seeing the world, I want to learn from you. Her words, like a cool breeze after a storm, move me. I feel complete, knowing I've not only mended our family, but inspired my sister, helping her see that true success is being authentic. That moment, in the small Brooklyn coffee shop, is the heart of my journey, and I hope this story inspires y'all in Texas. I never expected this path would lead to a call to action, urging you to share your stories and reclaim your own voice. My journey inspires me to call on y'all to share your stories and reclaim your voice, after my pivotal talk with Chelsea about the true meaning of success. After she embraced my worldview at the Threshold exhibition in New York, like blazing sunlight after a Texas prairie storm, giving me faith that anyone can overcome pain to live authentically. This Reddit drama isn't just about me flipping my life at Chelsea's wedding in Dallas, Texas. It's about rising above a decade of family scorn, from scraping by on instant noodles to thriving with an Aston Martin and a $1 million project. I want to ask y'all in Texas, have you ever been dismissed by family for your career choice? If so, drop a emoji in the comments to let me know you're also finding your voice. If this story hits your heart, hit like and subscribe to join me for more inspiring Reddit dramas, from Dallas to New York. Stories that'll fuel your passion. Thank y'all for hearing my journey. I hope you'll find your own light, like I did,